This video is about a resource that I wrote recently, and it's about getting traction in local government, influence, alignment, and momentum for council leaders. So why does traction matter more than effort? I've spent a lot of my professional life involved in local government. I've spent nearly a decade working as a council officer across numerous portfolios. I've served as a councillor and twice as deputy mayor. And I now run my own consulting business, partnering with councils from across Victoria and beyond. And I'm very grateful of the experiences and acknowledge that not many people get to experience the system from all of those different angles. These experiences have fundamentally shaped how I think about leadership, influence, and performance in this sector. What I've started to believe very strongly is this. A lot of frustration that leaders experience in local government is not caused by lack of effort, intelligence, or commitment. It is caused by lack of traction. People are busy. Teams are working hard, plans exist, reports are written, meetings are held. Yet progress feels slow, fragile, and exhausting. I'm interviewing a lot of council leaders at the moment for a separate project, and they echo these sentiments. Initiatives stall, decisions get revisited, momentum builds briefly, and then dissipates. Capable people start to question themselves not because they are failing, but because the system around them makes progress harder than it needs to be. So I've recorded this to help address that gap. This is not about offering generic leadership theory. You can Google that information. And I'm also not pretending that local government can or should operate like the private sector. What I hope is that this helps by speaking honestly about how influence actually works in councils and what leaders can do to build alignment and momentum in that reality. So who's this video for? It's for people who are expected to influence and lead outcomes in council, whether or not they hold a formal leadership title. It's written for managers, coordinators, directors who carry responsibility for team services and delivery. It's recorded for project leads and subject matter experts who are relied upon to move work forward across the organisation's silos. And it's written for people who may not manage staff, but who are nonetheless expected to exercise influence, judgment, and leadership every day. As we know, local government does not operate through simple hierarchies, although they can be structured that way. Leadership is often shared and can be situational. Some of the most influential people in a council are those who understand the system. They know where decisions and recommendations really get shaped and can connect people and priorities without creating tension and conflict. So if you are accountable for outcomes in an environment of shared authority, competing priorities, and public scrutiny, then this video is for you. You'll see throughout the video there's a few quick tips that I'm going to share. And while I want to share my insights, I also want to make this practical, not just theory. So to start off with, which of these are showing up in your work right now? Decisions that need to be revisited more than once? Work that feels nearly finished for weeks or months? Progress that depends on constant escalation? High effort but low confidence? And momentum that fades once pressure is applied? I want you to think about those responses as you go through this video so that it grounds you in what is relevant to you. As mentioned, this is a guide. It's not just about theory, but it is practical as well. So please use it. Seeing the system from all sides. In my work, I love to use evidence-based research and frameworks, and my background's actually in science. But I only love these theories when they stand the scrutiny of actually working in practice. So when I start talking about my views on traction and so on, it's important to note that they have been shaped by experience, not just theory. As a council officer, I experience the daily reality of trying to deliver outcomes within a complex organisational environment. I understand the importance of governance, compliance, and due process. But I also felt the frustration of unclear decision pathways, shifting priorities, and work that seemed to be endlessly refined without ever being fully resolved. As a counsellor, I sat at the decision-making table. I saw how difficult it is to balance community expectations, political pressures, financial constraints, and of course, organisational capacity. I also saw how decisions that felt clear and resolved in the chamber could quickly become ambiguous once they entered the organisation, shaped by interpretation, risk considerations, and competing pressures. As a consultant, I now have the privilege of stepping back and seeing patterns across many councils. I see the same challenges repeated in different contexts. I see good people burning energy trying to compensate for system misalignment. And I see how powerful it can be when leaders stop blaming effort and start addressing alignment. Holding these three perspectives has convinced me that traction is not a soft concept. It is one of the most practical and important issues facing local government leaders today. So, a quick tip here. Take one piece of work that you're currently responsible for and ask, how would a counsellor describe this problem? How would a senior officer frame the risk? How would an operational staff member experience the impact? If these answers are quite different or don't complement each other, alignment work is required before you start thinking about building momentum. Okay, so the traction gap in local government. Patterns are important in the work that I do. Hearing from one council about a particular issue is one thing. But when similar patterns keep popping up, you have to stop and acknowledge it. Across councils of different sizes, locations, and political contexts, I'm seeing the same patterns emerge. Strategies are developed through careful processes, plans are endorsed through formal governance, teams are busy, calendars are full, and workloads are heavy. On paper, everything appears to be moving. But behind closed doors? Well, from conversations I've had, many leaders privately describe the same experience. We are doing a lot, but it does not feel like we are getting anywhere. Quick bit of advice here. Watch for this. Increased or excess reporting, that's usually a response to uncertainty. More meetings, that's often a substitute for decision clarity. More urgency, that is frequently a sign of misalignment upstream. So something to think about. What is this activity compensating for? From the outside, this can look like resistance or inefficiency. From the inside, it usually feels like constant negotiation, rework, and escalation. Work rarely stops outright. Instead, it slows, fragments, or becomes contested. As an officer, I remember working on initiatives that had clear strategic endorsement but lacked that genuine organisational alignment. Progress was technically possible, but practically difficult. Every step required negotiation, reassurance, and justification. As a counsellor, I saw how easily assumptions could be made about the organisation when progress slowed, without visibility of the structural and cultural factors at play. And as a consultant, I now see how often these dynamics misdiagnosed as performance issues when in reality, they are symptoms of misalignment. So why traction is uniquely difficult in councils? Local government is not just another organisational setting. It has distinctive features that fundamentally shape how influence works. Before focusing on working entirely with councils, I did a fair bit of work in the private sector as well. And I can comfortably say that local government is just different. Authority is distributed across multiple roles and layers. Accountability is shared. And I'll call it for what it is. Accountability is often ambiguous. Decisions are subject to political, community, and media scrutiny. Risk is highly visible, while success is often incremental and taken for granted. This creates a challenging reality for leaders. You can be accountable for outcomes you do not fully control. So, a bit of an authority reality check here. For the work you are leading, write down what you can decide, what you can influence, and what you can only observe. Traction improves when leaders stop trying to control what sits outside their remit and focus influence deliberately. This should help you reduce unproductive frustrations and sharpen your influence effort. When this reality is not acknowledged, leaders often internalize frustration. They assume they need to be more persuasive, more directive, or more resilient. They try harder, they push more, they add layers of reporting and oversight. And in my experience, this rarely solves a problem. The issue is not effort, it's alignment.